Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to tackle one of the biggest questions for anyone trying to get into tech. How in the world do you choose the right IT domain? I know, it can feel like a huge, confusing decision. So, we're going to break it all down, make it simple, and help you find where you fit. Let's jump right in.
If you're asking this question, trust me, you are definitely not alone. When you look at the giant world of IT, it's totally normal to feel a little lost, wondering where to even start. And that's exactly what we're going to clear up today.
So first things first, what do we even mean by a domain? Well, think of it like your major in college. It's simply the specific area in IT you decide to specialize in. Once you pick one, that's where you'll focus on building up all your skills.
All right, now for the fun part. Let's take a quick tour through some of the main IT domains. This will give you a really good feel for the different roads you can take.
And we're going to start with the big one, the domain most people think of when they hear IT. Software development. This is all about building the apps and software we use every single day.
So, the heart and soul of development is, of course, coding, using languages like Java, Python, or JavaScript. But it's more than just typing code. It really requires a knack for logic and a love for solving puzzles. The good news? The career growth here is fantastic. The reality check? It can be pretty tough for total beginners, so you gotta be ready for a challenge.
Okay, let's move on to our next domain. Testing, which you'll also hear called quality assurance, or just QA. For a lot of people, this is a perfect way to get their foot in the door of the IT industry.
Your main job here is to be a detective, to find bugs and glitches before a product gets to the customer. So you've got to have great attention to detail. Manual testing is an awesome starting point, especially for freshers, because it doesn't require a ton of coding. But here's the pro tip. If you want to really speed up your career growth, you've got to learn automation testing. That's where you start to use code to do the testing, and it makes you way more valuable.
Up next, we've got the absolute backbone of all modern technology, the cloud and infrastructure domain. We're talking about the servers, the networks, basically everything that keeps the internet running.
In this world, you're the one managing massive cloud platforms like AWS or Azure, keeping a company's entire digital foundation strong. And this is a really natural next step for people who already have some experience in an IT support role. It just makes a ton of sense.
Now let's talk about a domain that's more important right now than ever before: cybersecurity. This is all about being the guardian, protecting our digital world from all kinds of threats.
The demand for security experts is through the roof, but it takes a certain kind of person. You need a lot of patience, and you have to be committed to always be learning. The threats are constantly changing, so you always have to be one step ahead. It's a high-stakes game.
From protecting data to understanding it, let's shift gears and talk about the data domain. This is a huge field with roles like data analyst or data engineer.
So what's it all about? You use tools like SQL and Python to dig through mountains of information to find patterns and insights. This is the perfect spot for anyone who actually enjoys working with numbers and finding the story hidden inside the data.
All right, next up is a role that's absolutely vital for any company: IT support, or the service desk. These are the frontline problem solvers.
The core to the job is pretty straightforward. You're helping people with their tech problems. But here's why it's so great. For many people starting out, it is the absolute best way to get into the IT field. It's an incredible launchpad, because you get to see how all the different parts of the company work, which makes it way easier to move into another domain like cloud or security later on.
Okay, so we've been on a quick tour of the major domains. Now we get to the most important question. How do you actually pick the one that's right for you? Let's walk through a really simple way to figure it out.
Let's just boil it down. Ask yourself these 3 questions. Number 1, do you genuinely get a kick out of coding and solving tricky puzzles? If the answer is yes, then development is probably your path. 2, do you get more satisfaction out of helping people and making sure systems are running perfectly? Then cloud or IT support is a fantastic fit. And 3, do you get excited by the idea of digging into numbers to find hidden trends? Well, then the data domain is calling your name.
And that brings me to what might be the single most important piece of advice I can give you. Seriously, do not just follow what your friends are doing. Your career is long, and your happiness depends on you following what genuinely interests you.
Now that we know how to make a good choice, it's just as important to talk about what not to do. So let's look at a couple of super common mistakes that can really get you off track.
You really want to avoid these 2 major traps. The first one is picking a domain just because you heard it pays a lot. That's a recipe for burnout and losing all motivation. The second trap is trying to force yourself into a field that you have absolutely no interest in. You won't have the drive to keep learning, and in a field like IT that changes so fast, that just leads to career problems and, honestly, a lot of unhappiness.
So once you've dodged those common mistakes, what comes next? Well, it's all about creating a path that's all your own.
And I really want you to remember this. It doesn't matter what your personality is like or what you're good at. Whether you're a super creative person or a really detailed-oriented analyst, there is a place for you in IT. The field is just that big.
At the end of the day, the real secret to a successful career isn't finding the one perfect domain. The most important thing you can do is pick one that you find interesting and then just commit to it. Focus on learning consistently. That focus, that's what builds an amazing career.
So I'll leave you with a question to really think about. After everything we've talked about today, what is going to be the very first step you take on your IT journey?